Hi, guys. Welcome to Chemo Glow, where the glow doesn't define me, I define the glow. Thank you for joining us tonight for our live event. Please check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please share, follow, and subscribe. Also, check out our podcast where available. Chemo Glow is celebrating Black History Month. All my guests are men. And we are happy to celebrate our caregivers, our thrivers, our survivors, our fathers, our brothers, and our husbands. My guest tonight is a father and a grandfather and a thriver. We chatted over the years, and what's funny is cancer was never the topic of discussion. So I would like to welcome my guest tonight, Mr. Reginald Stucky.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm well, and you? And all your followers.
All my followers. I am so glad that you are joining me tonight.
And I'm happy to be here.
What's crazy is how we met. And so, a lot of people don't know, but I am a trainer. It used to be for the state, but now it's a national curriculum that I train for. And I am a co-trainer, which means I train other instructors for this training. And I had to go to Winston-Salem for a training. It was an interesting class. And that's where I met you. Kind of introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, of course, Regina already said I'm Reginald Stucky. I was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Went to Carver High School, graduated Reynolds High School, went to the military. I'm retired Air Force, 21 years, worked for the government another 15 years, but mostly proud father, proud granddad. And of course, just like Regina was saying, with the national side now, with the National Crisis Intervention is, that was something that was important. And I would say important to me simply because coming back from overseas and, having something as a retired person to do for the community. So it was fantastic for me. And the friends that actually has their own business, they just happened to ask me one day, hey, would you be interested in doing the training or doing the training for us? And so I had never heard of it, of course. However, in the military, I had taught the first term parents. So I was like for parents and, as young kids, and I was doing little classes, had the little baby doll that screamed, cried, all of that. I was already a dad, so of course I knew that. And growing up with cousins and everything. But at the end of the day, it was the opportunity to do the National Crisis Intervention was amazing for me because it gave me the opportunity to help our community and assist and do. And of course, meeting you, like you said, our class was amazing. And it was my first time meeting you because initially it was Rob that did it for me. And for me, it was a bit different because I really didn't have that background. Now, I had been a corporate trainer and with engineering, all that, but of course, my passion has always been about helping, doing, and, just looking out for people. And at the end of the day, that just ended up being amazing for me. And it's been fantastic.
And what's crazy is after the training class, I got home and we ended up talking for like an hour. Afterwards, you called and thanked me for the training class, and I was like, wow. And we had this great conversation. And I want to mention the agency that you are training for. What's the name of it again?
Wyman Jacobs Ladder, and it's owned by James and Carla Paul.
Okay. All right. And so it's a great organization, and I like what they're doing in the community.
Exactly. And they got into it for that reason, to help the community to do, because honestly, a lot of people get into it for monetary and everything, but this and why I signed my name up to it as well is because of their reasoning behind doing it. So for me, you know what? I'll put my name behind anyone that's out here helping our community and doing the right things for people.
Yeah, and it's been about 2 years because I think I've had to train you twice. So it's been about
It's been
2
2 years
years.
for us, so three total for me, but two for you and
Yeah,
I. And look, when you see Regina and Reginald, it's almost it's almost the same.
that's what I said. That's probably why
Yeah,
we clicked. And the whole time that we chatted, we never talked about cancer.
yeah, never.
And it was funny because in our last couple of conversations when we were setting up for our next training, you mentioned the word cancer and you kept on moving, and then
Yeah,
you said something and you kept on moving,
right.
and then I was like, you know what? I love your spirit. I love the way you just give of yourself, and I want you to come on my show. And you were like, oh, what am I going to have to say? And
Hey, whatever is for me is you imagine my story, of course, was completely different. I would say not completely, but I lived overseas
yeah,
and I was in Spain when I found out and everything, and it was just one of those things, and I didn't even tell my family here in the States or anything because, of course, I looked at it like, you know what, I got this because
yeah,
I'm always singing, I'm always laughing, and I never wanted my children to see me like you imagine, oh, is dad okay?
yeah.
Yeah. So I was good, but at the end of the day, I did have that support system over there, and it's different. And
Mm-hmm.
when I say different, simply because uh, you're in another country.
Yes. Well,
And
let's back up a little
okay,
bit
okay,
because you were in another country and
yes.
you were actively in the Air Force. Am I correct?
No, actually, when I had already retired. I
Okay.
retired in 2001.
Okay.
So when I found out, I was a director over there working for the government, but I still worked on a military installation.
Okay.
But I
And what
was
happened?
civilian. Well, actually, I was one of those guys that was always in the gym. I get up 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym, and do my little cross trainer, all that workout, lift weights, and then lunchtime go play basketball, and then
Mhm.
in the evening play basketball. So on this particular day, I did my normal routine. That evening, I had one of those tight look, I look good shirts on. I try to show my muscles, all that stuff. And I ran down the court, but I had like in my calf, my right calf, I had like I thought I had strained it. So
Uh-huh.
I think I had, but at the end of the day, I was on the cross trainer doing that. But that I had that for, I would say probably about, I don't know, a month or so. So like any macho man or whatever, you think, oh, I'm gonna work it out. So,
Mhm.
but that evening, I was running down the court playing basketball, and all of a sudden, I just couldn't breathe. I was like, and it was like and I thought it was the shirt initially. However, I didn't sat on the side. I said, okay. So I had someone to come in and say, okay, take over for me for a second. So I tried to do it again, and I just
Mhm.
couldn't. I couldn't move. So then I said, okay, let me go to this locker room and take my shirt off. I couldn't even take a shower or anything. That's how bad it was. So um, initially, again, I blew it off. Went back to my office.
Mhm.
My secretary was like, "Oh no," she said, "Mr. Stucky, you need to go to the doctor." So they took me to They called the ambulance. Took me to a Spanish hospital. Gave me Motrin, which was a no
Uh-huh.
no. So then I still the next day couldn't do it. So my other secretary, she's like, no, you need to go to the hospital. So what I did is we have the base I was on was called Morón Air Force Base, but we have a huge base called Rota Air Force Base in Spain, and it's
Mhm.
a huge hospital. Anyway, I drove down, drove into the hospital, got there, and went to the emergency room. They did an ultrasound. They immediately grabbed a wheelchair. Oh, you need to go. So they took me upstairs, and it was a blood clot. But once they did all the tests and everything else, that's when I found out all, everything, and say, okay, it's not. And it took probably about 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
However, I found out. But you know what? And it was one of those things again. I was like, okay, I got this.
You got this. And so you're overseas, and tell us what your diagnosis was.
Well, it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
Which is a lot of people, because there's the leukemia, there's the non-Hodgkin. Now, the non-Hodgkin lymphoma attacks more so your immunity system, whereas leukemia attacks your marrow, your bone marrow and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part about it, if I'm honest with you, I never thought about it, but like some of the symptoms are what they call, you get night sweats.
Yes.
And I had those for a while. I mean, sometimes I would wake up, my pillows just soaked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, had that not happened, I don't know if I would have ever even known, because at the end of the day, I'm always in the gym. All my life, I've always been an athlete. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm the typical male that will not go to the doctor, which is not right. So any of you out here listening to me right now, go to the doctor. You should do your annual checkups. You should do. Now, I say this, and I'm hypocritical a bit, because my daughters get on me all the time. Daddy, go to the doctor, do it. And that's just an annual, and those things that we should do, and at our ages, because even the lymphoma, it can attack people from 14 years old to, they say, between the ages of 14 and I think it's like 20 something, and then it's 50, it's like 50 something to 65, and typically it's in males.
Oh wow.
And no different when they tell us about black males with prostate cancer. That's why we do it a bit earlier than most people, most races. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that was my, it was like my initiation into it. If I
jumped in,
yeah, but I was okay, and the crazy, like I said, I didn't tell anybody. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, it's because I grew up in the Cleveland projects initially, but we moved out. We moved to a nice area. Well, but I always had that foundation that I take care, I look out, and I do that when it comes down. My girls I talk to every day. Pretty much every day. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that I did not want to and I never felt bad about. I wasn't going to tell them. They never knew until I came back to the States.
So they didn't know that you were receiving treatment. And what was your treatment?
Well, initially the chemo, and then and radiation as well.
Okay.
And then of course, they say your diet, but you have to think. For me, I had a blood clot as well, so I had to get myself shots. I had to. They say, okay, you got to limit the greens you eat, and your diet had to change. And for me, I was that person that I was in the gym at 4:30 every morning, and so initially, even with that, I still didn't stop going to the gym. I was like, okay, probably for the first week I didn't. And then afterwards, I still, because even when you have this, and if you look it up and anyone tell you, you still need exercise, you need to eat properly, which we really don't do a lot. I mean, when I say that, we don't, we don't eat properly, and it's cheaper for us to go get a 2 for $5 at McDonald's than for us to go get food at Food Line, Walmart, whatever it may be. it's more expensive for us to eat healthy than it is for us to stop through the fast food, restaurant.
Yeah, I would say that it was so much more convenient, but in the long run, now look, we have
Yeah,
all these side effects from all the things that
right,
we're
right.
trying to take because it's easier, right?
Well, at
Um,
the end of the day, we didn't think about it
mhm.
before. We really didn't even do the fast food as much. It's
Mhm.
more convenient for us now.
There you
Because when I grew up, I had my grandparents, their gardens, their this, their that. We ate healthier then.
Yeah,
Now, the era of the 2 for $5s or two
I
for
know,
four,
right? And
yeah,
you get 2 for 10 these days.
exactly. But it was different. Even if I'm honest with you, when it comes down to it, with my grandparents anyway, we ate healthier years ago,
Than we
but
are.
now it's become more expensive for us to eat healthier and for us to take care of ourselves in the manner in which we should.
Yes.
Yeah.
And QT mentioned she wanted to know. You mentioned that you didn't tell your family that that you were diagnosed with cancer in the States.
Right.
And what made you make that decision?
Once I moved back to the States, I didn't even tell them. Well, you imagine, okay, when I found out 2013, I'm over there, and at the time I'm dating a young lady, and we lived together, and she was Spanish. Now, the thing is, her mother had passed away from cancer.
Oh.
Her father was diagnosed with cancer, and we all pretty much like in Spain, the houses are, kind of nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the support system. I mean, she was, and her dad, and her mom had passed away, her sisters and brothers. And like I said, for me, and plus the guys that my employees,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't, even during the treatments and everything, I still would, like, I might take a day off or whatever, but I'd come to work, and I lost a lot of weight. A lot of it was because I worked out all the time, and a lot of
Yeah.
them, some of my employees was like, "Miss Stucky, you don't lost way too much weight." I go from like 195 pounds to 168, 170 pounds, and they
Mm-hmm.
knew I worked out every day. But then, of course, though they being around me as much, they knew. But at the end of the day, they were always supportive.
Yeah.
And my thing is, as long as you have someone that you can talk to, or you have that support, you don't have to tell everything. You don't have to say it. Everybody's journey is different.
Yes. I
Yeah.
do believe it. I like, how do you define your glow? That's what I like.
Well,
How I
for me, how I defined it, my glow.
Yes. I
I
already know.
recall. I recall being in the Air Force in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if your listeners or anybody, you can look it up online, but I remember going to Entebbe, Uganda,
Mm-hmm.
and the Hutus and Tutus tried killing each other. And I recall my boss came to me one day and said, "Hey, we need to send someone over here to Rwanda."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there, and when I landed and got off the plane, and I recall this colonel, he came up to me and he said, "I hope you ready to see what you about to see." And I was like, "What?" So we got on this quad bike. He drove me down to the largest man-made lake in the world, Lake Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
We drove down, and when I got there, it was like bodies, and they were scooping bodies out in bulldozers as wide as you could ever see. They were throwing them in pits and burning them. And then, even when I say that, is this was a humanitarian thing that I went over there for,
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have potable water, they didn't have food, and it was just honest, it was a massacre.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, um, going to the different locations, Mabasa, Kigali, and all that, and they had these Constantine on a plane, and these people running up in front of the plane, and I'm like closing my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And every time someone got ready to eat, you talking about hundreds of thousands of people just standing there and looking. And that was the image that I saw, that I recall that I always said, you know what? Who am I to
Yeah.
complain about anything?
Yes.
And
Well,
so, and even that with, you know, my daughter, and even like when I tell you, I said the you know, with my granddaughter being born at 1 pound 10 ounces, you know, everybody, of course, you're gonna get sad at some point, and you know, and like I said, it's an individual journey. But
it's
at
an
the end of the
individual.
day,
But I am glad that you're sharing on my show. Real Men Wear Pink. They're with the American Cancer Society, and that's one of the there you go. That's
I'm
one of
big
the
on
organizations that where the men they come out and they speak. I had a chance to speak with them, and I remember calling you and just saying, you know, these are the things that I'm doing. And you said, was there anything that you need from me? Just
right,
let me know. And that was like a year or 2 years ago. So you just coming out sharing your story, because everybody's journey is different.
right,
Everybody's glow is different. And I
right,
love the way that you're defining your glow. You decided to protect your girls who are
right,
in the States, and
right,
you still had a community in a whole nother country that
right.
helped you go through. And you
Yeah.
allowed them to.
Right. And at the end of the day, I did talk to my girls because I had one of those what they call Vonage phones. So I could call anywhere in the world, and I
Uh-huh.
talk to my girls every day. You know,
Mhm.
and then they flew over, you know, they've always been anywhere I've ever been.
Mhm.
We all, you know, of course, been in the Air Force. We lived in England, we lived in Italy. They went to school in Italy, they went to school in England, but
Mhm.
you know, then they were in college. So of course, you know, they only came over pretty much in the summer. But at the end of the day, it was one of those situations that, you know, my girls are daddy girls. So they
Yes.
don't want to see daddy nothing. They don't want a woman make giving daddy no problems or anything. And you know, at the end of the day, it was just my decision not to tell them until, you know, once I was back in the States and settled here for a bit. Yeah, I told them and we talked about it. And even now, they are not even potentially thinking about, oh, daddy, you know, is this your annual? You got to go to the doctor. Or if they see a letter sitting in my house, they go, yeah, what's this? But yeah,
Like,
that was my journey, and that was the way I handled it. So again, everybody's different. Uh, and I think no matter who you are, no matter what your journey is, you're gonna have those days where you're sad, where you
yeah.
might cry. But you know what? For me, all my life I sit around, sing, laugh, joke, and so I chose to continue to do those same things.
And now, because guys, y'all don't know, but those pajamas he has on right now, those are some fancy. What are
Oh
the?
God, no. This is my everyday thing. I'm in my pajamas
I
unless I'm
love it. If I could, I'd be in mine right now too.
well, I didn't, you know what? I thought about doing the cliche, put on a nice shirt, tie, whatever. But then that's not me.
But
For
and this is
me,
how our conversations go when we talk. It's very laid back.
yeah,
You are always giving of yourself. And like I said before, when you dropped a couple of comments, I was like, oh,
yeah,
well, I would love for you to come on and just talk about it. Even hearing about like the night sweats, you
right,
know,
right,
having a blood clot in your leg. I
yeah,
had two of those.
right,
And having that, you know, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't go through cancer for a blood clot to take me out of here. Right.
right.
Like,
And
so,
ironically, my mother, she ended up, we were probably, I would say, and of course I was in Spain, but I
mhm.
recall talking to her, and my mom had a blood clot probably a month after me.
Oh, wow.
And so we both, you know, because she said, what medicine did they give you for your blood clots?
Mhm.
Initially, it was the Coumadin. And
Mhm.
then my doctors was mad at me because I wouldn't show up at the daggone appointment, because the problem for me with even the Coumadin was they told me because I was so active and always working out. They said that should have never happened. And so even when they put the EKG and all that stuff on me, and the alarms going off because my heart rate was only like 40 something, they were like, wait a minute. But when I first went in the military, my heart rate has always been low.
Yeah.
So they set it at a certain, level, and the alarm will go off. So even with that, it was a surprise to them, initially. So it was different, and like I said, it was a complete. Even with them, even the doctors, they were like, "Man, this just doesn't make any sense."
Okay, so we have a question here. How are you now in regards to your diagnosis?
I'm free and laughing and enjoying life and trying to help any and everybody I can.
So you're free. You're still giving. You're still, even though you're retired, you are still giving.
But that's what I was put on this earth to do. That's why I always felt I was. And even like the Special Olympics, that type of thing, I've always done. I started that when I was in Europe, and I enjoyed that. And, bringing all the, kids from, England, Italy, everywhere, for those got the, young people to be able to be and associate with, and, see that, what, we love you no matter what, because a lot of times people look at people and, no different. It doesn't matter about diagnosis, colors, or handicaps or whatever. We're here to love each other and do good for people.
Okay. And QT has right. How has this changed the way you live your life or deal with people?
If I'm honest with you, I say I always thought I was quite, sensitive, giving, whatever. But I tend to sit back before I say. Now I'm more thoughtful and more mindful of my, I say, prejudices, and it's not a prejudice against any race, anybody, or anything, because we all have prejudices, no matter what. But at the end of the day, is I'm more mindful of when I look, when I see, and even sometimes when you see somebody on the corner or whatever, because I recall a lot of times where you do it, you drive, on the highway, you come up to the stoplight, and there's somebody out there, and I used to think, oh my God, whatever, but now I'm like, you know what? It's not my place. It's not my place to judge. And if I choose to give, I give, and I give freely, wholeheartedly, and then I go on. And then I hope they blessed and life is good.
Well, I know life is good for you because you have your grandchildren. That's what we bonded over, was your grandchildren. And I was telling you about my two little ones.
Oh, yeah.
And they are bringing you so much life. You watch them every day.
Oh, God, yeah. My little man. Oh, and I mean, Journey was like, she was my baby, and she still is. And even now, my baby girl, with Kai, he is just, he has his own agenda, and he's just so bubbly. And you know what? Your kids keep you going as well, because, and when I say that, I'm talking about my daughters, my sons, but my grandkids are like, Papu, let's do this, let's do that. I sit on the floor, play games. The bad, it's the time where, you know what, I want to ensure that they have things that they need to do to enrich their lives, not just materialistic, but from a mental standpoint of enriching them about how life is and how things go.
Well, we have a question here from Real Men Wear Pink. What is the most important thing you've learned on your journey?
I would say the most important thing that I've learned on my journey is, you know what? Know that you always have someone that you can talk to, that will encourage you, that you can look to, and you imagine, just say, hey, I'm not okay today, but is it okay if I confide in you? Or and sometimes you don't even want to talk. Sometimes it's okay just to be quiet, to be still, to just know that if you need to pick up the phone and call someone, or send a text, or whatever your means of communicating is, that's what I would say. Just know that you're loved, that there's always someone that's there for you.
And that's a good answer, even to the next question that we have from QT, who said, what kind of advice would you give someone recently diagnosed? Knowing that you're loved, knowing that you can talk to them. When I was diagnosed and then I went through treatment, I had my support groups, but I also did a lot of volunteering. So that giving.
Well, I would say, as far as the advice, and again, if you've been diagnosed, depending on the stages you are too, because sometimes your stages determine your grief level as well. And so what I would say, again, depending on who you are, how you feeling, is like, get involved in something, do something. And even if it's reading a book, and like I said, sometimes you don't want to talk to anyone. So that means you go into your quiet place, you go into your own closet, but you try to stay as positive as you can. And don't get me wrong, you're gonna have those days.
You have those
times, and you're gonna feel sorry for yourself. But at the end of the day, I always, it was this gospel song I always heard, there's always someone worse off than you. And so again, that's even with cancer, with chemo, there's people out here, and again, in Africa where I was, man, it was people there that didn't have legs, that were scooting down the street with cardboard on their arms and stuff. So, that was my thing. That was where I said, it's always someone that's worse off than you. And a lot of times is what we don't realize is that our families are suffering as much as we are. And sometimes we don't communicate well with them. And we may snap, and they understand. But then there's also that time when you may not be completely upset or angry, where you just sit down and say, you know what? It wasn't you. It's nothing about you. And I appreciate you and I love you. But it's just, like I said, it's difficult. However, when you have those people with you, is communicate and talk to them.
Have those conversations.
Say,
definitely have those conversations, because you never know how your family is feeling.
Exactly.
It always surprised me that my twin sister, if I mentioned something, she's like, yeah, I can't listen to that song anymore. Or I stopped doing this because, you were diagnosed at that time. I had no idea, right?
Right.
And that's another reason why I'm doing Chemo Glow, because how are you defining it? Again, how did my family react to my glow? Because I was so private at the very beginning. And now all of a sudden you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Because I have something to say, but I also want to hear what other people have to say and how they're defining what's going on with them.
But even like you said with your sister, you imagine, she says she can't, you imagine, I would say, I don't know if now or then, she couldn't listen to that song. But when she see what you're doing right now, is, you know what? That song made my sister. That song was, okay, it was a hard time. But at the end of the day, now, my sister's doing the glow.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we celebrate that song or that time or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be celebrating 10 years
of
marriage in April. 10 years of being cancer free in April. I have two beautiful 4.5-year-old girls.
Right.
We've been home for a year since March 16th.
Lord, you've been keeping the party going.
And during that time, we have been quarantined and
And building a house.
a house,
Oh,
which we are in. I'm in my pod.
oh
So I
yeah, I
hope
like that.
you like my pod, my new
Oh, yeah, it's
studio
beautiful.
here.
Yep.
But finding the things that I enjoy is very important to me.
Right.
And inviting people into my life, which I'm now enjoying that, because, I have an audience, whether it's 7 people, whether it's 20 people, whether Robin Roberts picked me up. I'm just enjoying telling
Well, I never
my
thought I
story.
would do it. I never thought I would do this. If I'm honest with you, I
No.
never thought that. It was. I won't say it was hard. It was that I eventually told my family, but
Mhm.
I'm quite private when it comes down to anything like that. I mean, we laugh, we joke about all kind of things, but when it comes down to anything from if dad doesn't feel well, whatever, then I pretty much keep that to myself. And so that for even to come on here and do this, and a bit apprehensive initially, but I wasn't. I mean, I was and I wasn't, but it's okay,
Yeah.
because people need to hear, and my thing is people need to understand that, hey, go to your physicals, your check, and women are very good at it because y'all have the mammograms, y'all have all that stuff that y'all do.
Mm-hmm.
But men typically, until you're over the age of 50 or 40 or what, and for black men, I think it's 40. They say you should go get prostate, check up. But typically, men, we don't go to the hospital unless we like laying down on the carpet and your wife put a rope over you and pull you, or a girlfriend or whoever it may be, and pull you out the door.
And what's interesting, there is a lot of women who will not go get a mammogram. There's a lot of women who will say, no news is good news.
Yeah, and see, that's never good, male or female.
Male or
And
female.
I just know, and honestly, I would say from having girls and everything, is women are historically better than males, because we just don't go to the doctors unless it's just honestly, and even then, you got to really be bad. But there are certain periods and there are certain times, that we should, and no different than, the females and women, for you guys, as far as mammograms, pap smears, that's an annual thing you guys should have. And for males, as far as the prostate and all that, especially black males, again. And I remember the first time I even heard about prostate, it was a white guy that was in the military that told me, he said, "Stuck, man, you need to go to the doctor and, get checked out and everything." And, and I still remember that. And that was, man, that was like in 91 or something like that. But he took the time out to tell me, and he explained to me, like, hey, as a black man, you need to go early. And I appreciated that. And I still remember him to this day for him actually taking the time to say that to me.
Yeah, I was diagnosed at 36, and at that time, I think the timeline for women was 40. So if I would have waited like 4 more years, that would have been a problem. So going out, making sure that you have your physicals every year, that you're seeing who you need to see, and take care of your mental health as well. From physical to mental to spiritual, take care of all those things.
And the mental side of it is really significant, and it's certainly in this time, day and time, and it's everybody's going through the pandemic, and we've gone through it for now nearly a year, and the vaccines out, and people still been in their houses, and but even before then, a lot of times people never really took care of their mental health, and that's significant. And if you feel, if you're sad, if you just feeling, some kind of way, again, you always, I would hope there's someone around you that you can just say, hey, look, you know what, man, I don't know, I'm off.
Yeah.
But it's always been difficult for people to actually say to other people. But now I think uh we're more, we're more like responsive and understanding when someone says to you that, you're not okay.
I'm not okay.
Hey, look, it's a Sigmund Freud thing. I'm
Yeah.
okay, you're okay, I'm okay, you're not okay,
You're not
So,
okay, but it's
yeah,
good to have your support group, to have your family, to have your friends,
right.
especially now, you
Yeah,
know,
certainly.
especially now. I am so happy that you decided to come on our show.
Well, hey, I'm happy that you invited me to be on the show, and I've enjoyed, talking to you and, all your followers. And I just hope everybody is doing well and taking care of themselves and, you know, just loving each other and
Mhm.
being the best you can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Reginald, is there anything else you would like to say to our listeners?
I would just say to everyone that, you know what, be the best person.
Mm.
Do take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
Mhm.
And always be loved, and just understanding of other people's thoughts, other people's feelings. And so guess what? You know what? We're gonna make this world a better place.
Nice.
And that's my
Yes.
take.
Yes. And Miss Eugenia said, Reginald, keep that positive attitude.
Hey,
Um,
that's my goal in life. That's what I've always strived to do.
yes. Goodness. Awesome advice. I love this coming from our audience today. Hello, Regina. I'm so excited about the show.
Yeah.
Denise Allen. Oh, that is, I'm so happy that, like, even speaking with you,
Uh-huh.
Miss Denise Allen, or her husband are coming on. I really want to speak to her husband, Charles, also
Mhm.
speak with her. Like,
Um,
Chemo Glow is as a platform for people to come and actually share their stories.
right,
And like
right.
you said, you were a little like, we had about 2 or 3 conversations.
Uh-huh.
We were going to have multiple guests on this
Oh
episode.
God, yeah.
And I kept saying, all I want is you,
Yeah,
because I love the way you're defining your glow. And the fact that we didn't have many conversations
right.
about cancer. We just talked about life, talked about
Exactly.
family.
Yeah.
And
But that was our glow. That
yeah,
was our glow, and
amen.
that was our therapy.
Yes, that was our therapy. Who
Yeah.
knew, me meeting you in Winston-Salem at a training, that we would become friends?
Yeah.
And we'll start. You always ask about my girls. I'm always
Yeah.
asking
Oh,
about your family,
yeah. Right.
and hoping that we could do this again.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's been fantastic. And I'm honestly and sincerely proud of you and what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
because initially I had no clue that you were doing that until you told me. So
Yeah.
now I know, and now I told that to my family, my kid. I was like, "Hey, this is amazing here," and
Yeah.
they saw it. They looked at, and I would tell you that again, I am sincerely proud of you
Thank
and
you.
your platform, and you're reaching out and doing things for everyone.
Thank
And you tell your story, you get people to tell their stories.
you. Mm-hmm.
Therefore, people don't feel isolated anymore. And that's the thing. A lot of times, cancer used to be a bad word. It was
Yeah.
like a cuss word. But
Yeah.
now with you and with what you're doing, is you're giving people you know, the reason to say, okay, you know what? If she can do it, they can do it. I
Mm-hmm.
can do it, and we're okay.
Yeah.
And now it's not a bad word anymore. It's like, you know what? It's something I had to live through, something that I deal with or dealt with on a daily basis. And so now I have a support system. Even when they come to your site, guess
Yeah.
what? They can go back and look at other things that other people have said.
Exactly.
And therefore it gives them encouragement. It gives them the strength to imagine even the days that they don't feel like they can go on, that they can continue to go on.
Yeah. And Jeanette Gregory says she loves your glow.
Tell her I said thank you.
Jeanette Gregory is the one that told me, go get a mammogram. Like she told a crowd to go get a mammogram.
Exactly.
And I decided to go
do
get that mammogram. And because of her, I
right.
found out that I had cancer.
Right.
And I was able to volunteer and donate my time to the American Cancer Society after all this was going on. It is a great organization. There's so many support groups out there, from Healing Pines Respite to Sisters Network. You just have to reach out. The Young Survivor Coalition. I even went hiking. I went kayaking. I met so many wonderful friends through this. So I want to thank you so much. And Troy Palmer, I want to make sure I get all of the comments in because they're coming in.
And honestly, I appreciate all you that are supporting Regina and what she's doing. And at the end of the day, we all supporting each other. And that's what it's about.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping that I can get more of you guys on. I'm trying to do a panel at the end of the month. It's for all the guests. So if you're available, for all the guests that were on the month of February, we're going to do a panel of all the guests on the 3rd. I think it's the 3rd. So I would love to have more people on. Love for you to share your stories. Tell me how you're living your glow. That's what's so important. Absolutely, support is great. Yes, Miss Denise Allen will be on soon, and her husband Charles. So see what
you're doing good things. You're doing good things. You're doing great things.
Well, I want to thank your family for encouraging you to come on to our show. Guys, again, we're airing every Wednesday. We're trying this out. We'll see how it goes for the next couple of months, but we're coming into your living rooms every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And next week, we'll be coming into your rooms again. I say your rooms because everybody's mostly in their rooms on a laptop. During COVID. But before I end my show, I just want to thank you.
And I appreciate you. Yeah. And I was honored to be on your show.
Thank you so much, Reginald. Just hang tight, and I'm going to go ahead and talk to our listeners. Guys, please make sure you come and see us again next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, where my guest will be Pastor Ricky Barber. It's going to be interesting. So come join us. See us at 8 next Wednesday. And remember that the glow doesn't define me. I define the glow. How are you defining your glow? Peace.